Welcome to our podcast. I'm Katey Sagal, and
I'm just so in love with you.
That's right. That's
Rock-
exactly the right reaction.
use the right reaction
I'm Kurt Sutter, and this is Pi People Influences.
and experiences.
There you go.
And as you can tell, we're in a different room.
We are.
We are in our living room today. We're still in our house, but we're sitting in front of our beautiful wolf painting.
Oh, it's so fucking cool.
It's so fucking cool. How are you, honey? I'm just going to preface to say that I'm extremely jet lagged. I just got back from Cape Town like 2 nights ago or one night. I don't even remember. So
Holy shit.
I'm a little
Laggy.
I'm a little laggy, but which makes me more open and vulnerable is what I find.
Yeah,
Well,
I have an issue too, but I'm not even going to share it. It makes me feel so vulnerable.
Oh, I'm dying to know what the issue
Is it a UTI?
It's no, that's nothing.
Okay.
That's a
well,
fucking picnic to me. Give me a UTI. Give me a U. No, God forbid. Poo, poo, poo.
How are you?
am I? Yeah. I'm glad you're home.
Okay, good.
Although I was in Cape Town with the youngest child, and I loved it. Actually, I mean, it's a long ass fucking flight.
Yeah.
It's a lovely place.
I know we had a great experience. We went on safari. We did a whole. I was working, but I got breaks, and so we went.
We were on a Netflix set that I was allowed to go.
Oh, stop!
Wait, were you with the kids? Were you with one of the kids?
This is what we did. I was shooting a show for Netflix over there. I had a big break, 2 big breaks. So one of them, Sarah came over. We did a safari for 9 days. Then I worked a little bit. Then Kurt and Esme came over and we did another safari. And the only one that didn't make it was Jackson because he was off being, whatever. He's being on TV and doing his thing. So, but it was an amazing experience, Pammy.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I mean, that is bucket list shit that nobody gets to, but you actually got to do it.
Yeah, it was one of the reasons I took the job because they said, I'd have to stay there for, I don't know, almost 3 months. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. And then we did all this.
This is where you've been.
Yes.
I'm so full for you that you and Sarah got to do that because we know how little time we get with them. So that is so fucking cool.
It was really amazing to spend that time with her and with the little one and with Kurt. I mean, the whole thing was just kind of keep things in perspective, see conservation and the ecological system as it's supposed to work. And you just see how smart nature is, compared to.
Well, that's so interesting because, we just have this blaring alarm bell, when we're in America, United States, and it's just like, everything is like so like this. And then the second you get out of America, you're like, oh, everybody's exaggerating. Everything is extreme. But it's like, I mean, forget it. I traveled so much this past year and it gave me so much perspective that it's kind of like everything's connected.
Right.
Mm.
That was our experience. That was our experience as well. It was just so.
Yeah, it was very much like, I'm not a bucket list guy. I had very low expectations for my life. And, but it ended up being a bucket list experience. Like when I was there, you get it, right? You get why, the importance of it and the impact of the experience is pretty remarkable.
And how much in minutia we deal with. That's not necessary. I mean, it just simplifies. Before we go any further, we do have to introduce you.
Yeah,
because
we're just chatting.
And we just jumped in because, this person is really part of my family. So we can talk some about that. But just so everybody knows, we're here with my buddy, Pamela Adlon.
Siegel.
My what?
Siegel,
that's right. I know her as Pammy Sagal. I know her as, what do I know you as again? I know you as Small Change, which is another conversation that, maybe we get into, we'll see. But
Yeah, maybe I should change my name to Small Change now.
you are that on my phone.
It's very gangster.
You come up as Small Change on my phone.
And Keith, remember Keith Levy? No, you didn't do. Listen, we've been doing fucking Greetings from Venice Beach since I was like 14 years old. That's crazy.
It's crazy.
Well, can I just okay, thank you for introducing me. Now I'm taking over your podcast because I'm doing this because Katey, I'm going to cry.
I know.
I'm both going to cry.
I see you cry.
She's one of the people who raised me and made me. And it's so weird because I said to Mira, who works with me, I was like, okay, everything's so crazy right now. I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, what is the talk about? I was reading the synopsis and it said that, you guys are talking about like who created you. And I'm like, that's bizarre because Katey is imprinted in my DNA. When I was literally a teenager, like a young teenager, and through those teenage years, like I grew up essentially in Paul Gordon's house on Walnut in Laurel Canyon, and Katey's pictures were all over the cork wall. Remember the cork wall at Walnut?
Yep, I do. Yes.
Oh my God. And he had like a 24-track studio in his house. And I remember one day I was like hanging out and and Paul was always my big brother. Like we never had any sex things, even though,
a child.
I was a child. Yes. Thank you. Exactly. I know. But I just had to clear that up. I was a child then. Now I'm all of you guys same age. I don't know how the fuck this happened. We're all the same age. Caught up.
I want to preface it so just people know what we're talking about. When we were younger, Pammy and I, we had a friend named Paul Gordon who wrote a musical. He was a songwriter. Wrote a lot of famous songs. And he wrote this musical that at the time it was called Backstreet. Now it's morphed into Greetings from Venice Beach. And Pammy and I were both cast in it. Pammy was the star of the show. It was about a young teenager.
You were the star.
Well, we were all the stars. We lived in Venice. It was about a bunch of people living on the Venice Beach boardwalk. And we worked on this and workshopped it, and none of us had any money. And we were
in people's living rooms.
In people's living rooms. You were in high school, right? You were in high school.
Yes.
Yeah, you were in high school. And I was like, still drinking and drugging and somehow, managing to show up in the living room. And we put this play on together. We all did this thing. So, and Pammy was kind of like your character in the show, which was sort of the mascot of all these older people, but also the wise one.
That's so funny. I never even thought about that. That's like who I am. Like I was always the youngest one. Now I'm the oldest one.
No.
It's so crazy. But when we did this show, when I first heard your wife, sir, sing, I was like, excuse me? I couldn't handle myself. Her voice when I would go on and we did different iterations of the show throughout the years. But I always kept the recording of our original. We did it at Largo,
right,
which was called the Coronet. Shout out to Flanny. And thank God he kept that theater. That theater is still the theater that we were all on stage together. And the Coronet, the Largo on La Cienega. And so if I was doing a part and I had to cry or whatever, I would take the recording of you singing.
No, sweetheart.
And that is what, your voice is so, I think that people don't even fucking know. They think you're this cool, Mayans, I don't even know what these shows are that you do with Kurt. What are these motorcycle things that...
Sons of Anarchy. Not the Sons of Anarchy. Sons of Anarchy.
There you go.
You would think people would know I sing by now. I put out all these records, but it's like, it's sort of like when people still spell my name wrong. I don't know if you get this, but I'm sort of like, I've been famous for a long time. Can't you fucking spell my name right? But so I don't know if they know.
And-
That's not to sound arrogant. It's still, they should know.
And often it's to me
It's often is to you. What do you mean?
that I don't know how to spell.
Yeah, he doesn't know how to spell it.
Of course.
But, I just want to say, Pam, that show, I will say this, and shout out to Paul Gordon and Jay Greska, for me, completely started my career as an actor, because up until that point, I didn't want to be an actor. And then was, Belle, my long-term manager, found me doing that play. And I'm not sure the trajectory with you. I don't know exactly when everything started happening. I don't think it was when you were 16, but maybe I'm wrong. Am I wrong?
I met Liz and Jean first.
Oh, my sisters.
Yeah.
For those who are listening, those are my sisters.
And I did a movie called Grease 2.
Oh, that's right. Oh, my God. Totally right. That's right.
Yeah.
Was that right after Backstreet, or was that before? I don't remember. I don't know.
I think it was during the same time, literally, because I was 14 and I got the Patient Zero. I've got the origin story of us all. I was at the Wilshire Ebell with Liz Sagal seeing a dance show. And Paul Gordon was there in silver underwear. And he heard my voice and he came over, and Liz was like, "Hey, this is Pammy." And I met Paul and he was like, "Oh my God." And he heard me talking and he brought me outside to the car and had me read Alfonso, which was the first name of Small.
Oh, my God. I didn't know that.
That was the beginning.
Wow. And you were this is what I remember. The biggest heart, the sweetest heart, the foulest mouth I'd ever heard of a teenage girl. I was like, and you could get away with it because you were so adorable, and then you were just like a truck driver, man.
What
coming
is
out-
she trying to prove? Why the potty mouth? Why were you?
I don't know, but it was so endearing.
Here's
Your potty mouth.
here's the thing. We for this whole thing, we do no research because we're lazy. And I've been hearing about you since I met Kate, right? About your relationship and how you started out. And this is even before, you were starring in TV shows. And so I know bits and pieces, but what we try to do here is really to your question of why potty mouth, how did that, to get a little bit of, what before all of that happened, what's your backstory, man?
Yeah. Which I know a little bit of, but there is our podcast is not so much to talk about credits and work and stuff, but a little bit more about nature and nurture. And we love to talk to people that are raising children. We love to talk to people that, sort of have a what is that word, fortuitous path?
Oh, circuitous.
Circuitous path to where they ended up. Not really, not a straight shot, which most of us in show business, it's not a straight shot. It's kind of like, what, this is how I ended up where I ended up. So why don't you tell us a little bit about where you grew up? And
Well, because I'm thinking about this and it's like, I mean, and I'm sorry, Kurt, because I don't know anything about you. I just
That's the idea. That's the point.
cool tattoos and
Isn't it
you
cute
love
for
my
families?
girl.
it's
You
cute.
love my girl. But I know that Katie and I both had dads in the business, and your dad was the director, and my dad was a writer and producer. And Katie knew my dad, and he was a very big, giant, large personality. And I think I could attribute my potty mouth to him. It's so interesting because I did a show last night at the Groundlings, of these short plays. And, we do it once in a while. This guy, Eugene Pack, writes stuff and we go and put it up and it's fun. And my mom was in this blue suit. My mother's 89 now.
Wow.
And she was sitting there in her blue suit. And Tate Donovan was in a couple of the plays last night with me. He was interviewing my mom. And my mom, he was saying, so how did you meet her dad? And she said, it was in Paris. And my mother's English. And he was like, really, in Paris? And, and we found out all these things and mostly things that I knew. And then at one point, Tate said, what did you love about, Pammy's father? And she said, he had a great sense of humor. And then he said, oh, and I said, what was the other thing, Nana? Were you in love with him? And she goes, he was, because she always says, I never was in love with him. I just thought he was funny. So all of a sudden, she pulls a new rabbit out of her hat last night and says, he was very easygoing. And I was like, every year, she dumps a brand new turd or something that is so new. I'm like, that's new. Easygoing?
Wow.
I was like, I couldn't wait. Like, I'm dying to call my brother right now because my dad was tough.
Mm.
Right.
And I wasn't able to really talk about him in any kind of a negative way until years after he passed.
Right. And that's because you were scared to talk about him in a negative way, or why is that?
You just, you don't speak ill of the dead. I don't know. You feel protective and I was never a therapy person. And I didn't have that because I have an English mom and she didn't, you know what I mean? So
Right.
I kind of came to terms with that later on and was able to verbalize trauma and seeing where my mom has come from, like, where she gets her steel and her grit, like just growing up in the war in England. I mean, these people, like the immigrants they are unflappable.
Yeah.
She is just like never gets freaked out. And, so anyway, I grew up kind of bi-coastally. I met you guys when I had moved back and forth a bunch of times from New York to LA.
You're divorced?
They weren't divorced.
No, but you moved bi-coastally because of Dad's work?
Exactly. So those were the days when writers and producers were working,
Right.
getting work. So, but yeah, I mean,
So let me ask you this. Were you a new kid in school all the time? Were you like from school to school to school kind of thing?
yeah, I went to 13 different schools.
Oh, wow. That is a lot. So, wow, that's interesting. And
Yeah.
was it, I mean, this is the stuff we talk about. Was it hard to make friends? Was it hard to be the new kid in school? Or was it, what was that like?
I when I looked back on it, I feel like I wasn't ever in one place long enough to get up to any trouble.
Ah,
So I never really was like a drug alcohol person, but I mean, I was, I left one high school in LA and went to another high school in New York. And somebody was like, oh, Lori had to leave because somebody put mescaline in her ice cream. And I was like, I didn't know what anything was.
well,
And yeah, I mean, I think I smoked opium once in my life, and it was
You threw up.
you got sick. Yes.
the day I graduated from high school, actually. And but yeah, was never really like, I never really was in a group and
Mm.
kind of was always like missing a little bit. But I was like I was the toughie and I would stick up for the underdog. And, I remember moving to LA and there was a kid who was wearing like a sweater with a belt, very 70s, like kind of Starsky and Hutch. Remember that sweater, you guys? So he was like, and I thought it was cool. And like, this is like the first time we moved to New York, and this guy's name was Eyal. And I think he was from Israel or something. And people were, giving him shit for wearing this sweater. And I was just like, fuck off.
Right.
I was like, come here, let's go play Seven in Heaven.
What's interesting to me about that is I felt a little bit the same way when I was growing up. I felt sort of chameleon-like I could turn myself into whoever I needed to be to have people like me or get, whatever, until I didn't care anymore about it. But I talk to a lot of people that do what we do, and they do have that kind of, they can fit in with all different groups sort of thing. They can sort of, and I often think that, I remember growing up thinking, oh, I have no point of view. I'm sort of spineless. And then it turned into a career because I was able to fit myself into wherever I needed to be.
Wow.
So, yeah, I wonder if, if there's a correlation there.
I feel, that's interesting because I never, when I go and I speak a lot, do a lot of mentoring and stuff like that, and Q&As, and when you're promoting and doing this shit that you guys know all about this stuff, but I try to encourage people to not be so myopic when they're young. And I think it's even more important now because it just feels like you can't fritter away your summers anymore. Because, like, how much longer do we have to do what we do?
Right.
Before the beast takes over. And, but in those days, it was just like, I kind of was just waiting for the phone to ring and waiting for pilot season, which is like, what?
When you were how old? When did you decide, or did you always know this is what you wanted to do, or
And were you encouraged?
Yeah, were you encouraged, or did Dad,
I really wanted to, like, I remember the first time we moved to LA, we lived with Leonard and Sandy Nimoy.
Oh, wait a minute, we have another connection. That was my dad's best friend, Leonard Nimoy. They went to Harvard together, or Yale, or one of those schools, and they struggled together. And my dad used to go to Nimoy's house to get fed. And Norman Lear was involved. I mean, that's so weird that you just said that. That's totally weird.
That's crazy.
That's crazy. That's kind of crazy.
That's where we lived when we first moved to LA.
Oh my God.
That's what?
Yeah.
Yeah, we lived at that house on Kashmir.
Wow. I know.
Like, my favorite house, and this was like so LA to me because my dad and Leonard were really tight, and we didn't have a place to live yet. Fucking weird.
That's weird, man. That's really weird. In fact, Leonard put me in a movie he directed called The Good Mother. It was the first feature I did. And I think he gave it to me because of my dad. Well, because I didn't stop. I mean, I was good, but it was like, it was all, they
Listen,
just grew up together.
Nepo babies unite.
Yeah.
Listen,
Absolutely.
if the connection gets you in the room, you gotta have the juice to be able to stay there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have this conversation. Yes, I totally agree with you.
In our household, we have been trying to let go of the use of plastics.
Right.
To do that, we been trying different water filtration systems at our home to get pure water, more pure water, and
To stop using plastic
yeah,
water
to stop
containers.
using bottles and all that stuff. And so AquaTrue is the name of our new sponsor.
AquaTrue.
AquaTrue.
I like the name. They have water purifiers for every type of home, from installation-free countertop purifiers to higher capacity under the sink options. They even have Wi-Fi connected purifier and mineral boost options. It sounds like a really great product. Oh, and also, we have 3 dogs, so they are a big part of our family, and they get nothing but the best. They too need filtered water.
And also, not to get heavy, but the fires that we've experienced here in town, there's all this stuff about contaminants getting into ground level and water and blah, blah, blah. So I think more so than ever, there's an awareness and a need and a concern for keeping track of what it is that you're putting in your body, and pure water needing to be one of them.
Yeah. So we are allowed to do this now because these are our new sponsors. So today, our listeners receive 20% off any AquaTrue purifier. You just go to aquatrue.com. I'm going to spell it AQUATRU.com and enter the code PIE at checkout for your 20% discount.
PIE.
This is our next product that we have been blessed with as a sponsor. It is called, and we're anxious to try this, it's called Brick House Field of Greens. You know, for us, we try to eat healthy as much as we can, but the amount of vegetables they say that you're supposed to eat in a day, I'm not quite sure how anybody can manage that. So what I'm told about this particular product is that the vegetables are crushed. They're actual vegetables crushed.
There's no extract,
Right.
which a lot of greens products end up using.
Right.
Apparently this is all pulverized, actual vegetables into a powder form. And I love greens, powdered greens, just the amount of energy, and I'll use them sometimes before a workout, after a workout. But yes, it is a convenient and easier way to perhaps get all the necessary nutrients that one needs from the green
I
world.
actually see a stalk of broccoli kind of popping out of the top.
Do you really? Field of Greens is my favorite Kevin Costner movie.
It was a great movie. Absolutely. So good name.
Field of Dreams, Katie.
Oh,
That did not help the joke at all.
oh my gosh.
Grow it and they will come.
Just use the code PIE at fieldofgreens.com. That's code PIE, P-I-E, at fieldofgreens.com.
It is greens, not
Yes,
dreams.
not dreams. And you get 20% off.
20%?
Yeah, 20%
That's a lot of dreams.
on your first order.
I mean, greens. There you go.
Anyway, so your parents were supportive of you wanting to be an actor? Did you do like acting in high school? Did you just
No, what happened is, I was at the Nimoy's house and there was this girl there who was like jumping on a bed and she was like, oh my God. And my agent came over and we were hanging out and I was like, I want an agent. Like everything that happens is like, I want to do it for different reasons. Like I want connection. I want human, connection. And so I just called the agent that was on her like composite. You know how we all had like a Frisbee? We were riding a bike. We were in the sun.
Glasses, no glasses.
Totally. That was the one.
Yeah.
Hats. So I called the woman whose name was on her composite. It was Beverly Hecht, and she became my first agent. And I just said to my parents, I made an appointment, and my mom took me. And then later on, I guess my first movie was Grease 2, and I was going to Beverly High.
Wow.
And my brother was a senior with Lenny Kravitz, who is still my buddy to this day. You guys probably know Lenny, who's like the most menschy, down to earth, like, and his dad, Cy, was my dad's buddy. They were cronies. And so I was in Beverly, and then I went to do Grease 2, and that was 3 months shoot. And right before the movie ended, I had a terrible car accident. I don't know if you remember this.
I do.
Like this woman was driving me, and we were in a VW, no seat belts. Hey, the 70s, baby.
That's right. Stingray
And-
box. Right.
Yeah, and so I couldn't finish the movie. I was laid up in bed and I was broken up really bad. And I remember Liz coming to visit me.
Wow.
and sitting on the floor next to me wearing black leather jacket, like sitting there. And I was like, oh, she's so cool. And like also her modeling care for somebody, like nobody asked her to come. Like that wasn't my way. It just, you never do that. And she just showed up and it was shocking to me. And
No.
it was
Weird.
one of the things that I carry with me in my life. It was
Right.
just really, really meaningful. But so when I was done and then I got the cast off my leg, and I was like able to walk, had to go back to Beverly High and I was very afraid. I felt very vulnerable. My leg, I lost 6 inches off my leg and, all because I was in the cast for so long and all the things I broke and, I went through the windshield. It was crazy. So I went, I remember one of my friends called me and said, "Oh, people are talking about you that you were on this movie with all these adults and that you're doing drugs." And, you know, um, and I was
Well, you
like,
got in a car accident? Is that what they were saying?
maybe it was that, but it was just like, I was on the set of this Hollywood movie and I was doing drugs and it devastated me.
Right.
And now I would be like, I don't fucking care. People like the things, like the worst thing that you could say to somebody in the 70s was you're gay,
That's
which is like, I mean, I guess it's bad in some parts of America now, but for us, we were like, what? Like the 70s was the most bullying time like in American history besides right now because of shit stain.
right.
But I remember being very scared to go and then I went back. I went back to school and I had to and I felt insecure and like I didn't belong there. And I wanted to be part of the productions and the shows. They wouldn't let me hammer a nail into the set. Like it was like I was like
Why?
um
Because of your movie thing? They thought you
yeah,
were they thought you may be a bad influence or something?
no. No, because I'd worked professionally.
Oh,
And
oh, oh.
so I feel like I got profiled
Hmm.
for she doesn't deserve to do this. She's already been in a movie. Anyway, I was miserable at that school. It was very hard. School is hard. Uh, as my mother would say, we are not institutional people. And I had one great teacher. His name was Mr. Bell. He taught physiology. I was all lit up because I could come home and recite every bone in the body. And he talked about Pavlov's dog. And he was just this cool guy. And I loved him and he connected with me. And I just felt really lost there. And my grades started going down. And then I got a job in New York and I luckily was able to move to New York and I worked there on a bunch of stuff and I went to high school at PCS, Professional Children's School in Manhattan, and that's where I graduated. And I wouldn't have graduated high school if I didn't change schools.
What's so interesting about it is having grown up similarly in that this is kind of the family business. I have a very sort of grounded, I don't have a lot of illusions of grandeur or, like sparkly things about show business. I just really know it as having a director for a dad that it's a very hard job, that it's a working person's job and I think you have a similar thing about you and that that this is not about, movie stars coming over for cocktails and it's not all the glamour that it's what show business does really well, which is we give the illusion that everything is like roses and fun and it's sexy and blah, 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 blah. But, at the core, and I think it's probably why what I'm hearing you say, it must have thrown you when kids acted so weird to you when you're coming from a family of like, it's like, well, I'm just being a plumber like my dad. You know what I mean?
Yes, I love that.
I'm just doing what we do in my family. I'm not doing anything, that should make you feel uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's so that I love that. Yeah, it's a weird thing because if you have success or whatever people, what their measure of that is. I went from like being on a sitcom when I was 16 years old and I bought a condo in West Hollywood to 10 years later I couldn't pay my rent and I was in a flower shop and my agent walked in and said, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "Oh, that's what I was going to ask you." And, it's and really, really struggling because I didn't fit in. I was weird. I was weird looking. I wasn't, I was just not like a girl. I've always like straddled that gender, whatever. I mean, it was just going from this like, kind of, like living in my body and always being like a tough guy for that whole time that you knew me, like literally small change. Hey, I don't need you. I don't need anybody.
Exactly. That's yeah, totally. Well, it's funny, the 70s and 80s was all about blonde and blue eyes. I mean, I was told I would never work in television. So I completely understand. And you know what? Big fuck you on that.
I know. I
Right.
know. It's unbelievable. I mean, we just had to bide our time, but, going back to when I encourage people to not be so myopic, and if somebody says, "Well, I have to finish this, and then I wanna write a book, but I
Mm.
can't start it until June."
Right, right,
What do
right.
you mean? What? You think you're gonna do it? You've got a phone. You could if you're lucky enough to have a car, don't kvetch about traffic.
Mhm.
That's like your whole world right there. So get out your phone, start recording a book, or there's nothing to hold you back. And I just was kind of waiting for jobs as an actor. And then one day I realized when I was like doing a thing for my show, Better Things, I was like, "Oh, I've always been doing all this stuff." Because Katey, you remember, I had a camera attached to my eye every time. Did you
Yes.
ever see me without that fucking super VHS camera?
No, she was always recording everything. Yes.
I
No.
have I have so many tapes of your wife singing, including at the lingerie.
Oh my God. No, you don't. When I was with
I
Spider,
Yeah.
you have pictures of Spider? Oh my God. Pull up pictures.
I have to see Spider.
That was my
This
boyfriend.
is Look at this fucking picture.
Oh my God, that's me and Spider.
God.
And who else? Wait a minute. Who's in that picture? It's me. Wait a minute. And I can't see it, honey.
That's
It's
me,
right.
and that's Liz.
Oh my God. And that's Spider
Yep.
on the end. And then there's me.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Look at that 80. Look at that
Wow. Look at it. Look at Liz in her little 80s.
bouffant.
That's wild. Oh my God, Pammy. You have all that. Wow. That's
I've
amazing.
got it all. There's a reason why I started documenting my life when I was literally 9 years old.
I mean, for those, I know everybody knows you from Better Things. I'm sure they all, it was fantastic, amazing, all the things. And definitely a documentary of your life. I mean, so much of your life, including your mom. I mean, that was quite a wonderful character. So,
Thank you.
even though Californication was a bit of stretch, which I absolutely loved you on. I thought you were amazing. And talk about brave. I was like,
Talk
"Oh,
about like going from being like a dude,
totally."
like getting, fucked on blowing, like all the, it was
Oh,
crazy. Like I was a dude, I was like uncomfortable in my body. And then I'm like, what? I'm a porn star.
Mount what? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it was
I
fantastic.
mean,
It was so surprising to me too, because I was so impressed. I was like, wow, look at small change. She's in her underpants. Oh my God.
Yeah, exactly. But it's really interesting because that show was so well written and I learned so much. I think I learned the most about writing in my life from Tom Capanos, who wrote Californication,
Wow.
and from King of the Hill.
Mhm.
Well, that's right. Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah.
Of
I
course.
mean, that the writing on that show was so subtle and funny, but it was layered. Like they would let moments land, and I learned so much about like the constructing of a story. And then later when I mean, I don't know when it happened for you, Kurt, but when I first had my first writer's room, and you know how much respect I have for writers, being the kid of a writer, and having to tell everybody to throw structure out the window because I wanted to do it in another way. And who the fuck am I to tell these people who went to like college and university and shit? Like,
Yeah.
you
No.
know,
You're instinctive. That's your superpower.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It's you always look for the voice. Like, um, you know, uh, you look for the voice that nobody else can hear. You know what I mean? For me, in a room, and whether or not the structure of a script is good doesn't really matter. It I believe the most underused quality in entertainment in general is imagination, and it is our biggest, and if to a certain extent our only tool. And the fact that it doesn't get encouraged and nurtured like other art forms is kind of wacky, and it's why there's so much dreck out there. But to encourage imagination, to encourage originality, to encourage people to y- fucking follow that tangent, man. See where it goes. Is
I
super
I
important.
love that. I love that. And people are and that can be applied in your life.
Mhm.
You
Oh,
don't have to be writing in a writer's room. Like I spoke to my friend the other day who's kind of at an impasse and a crossroads, and I just encouraged them to sit down and decide what you want to do and don't feel afraid that you're going to be stepping on somebody's toes.
Mhm.
The thing that I say to everybody is you've got to write or think like you're an 8-year-old kid in your bedroom and you're writing in your journal and you close it and that little tin key will keep everybody out. And you got put everything in there, like, when it starts to make your heart beat and say, "Oh god." Like, I mean, I remember reading my journals and looking and there's big, huge crossed out places like, "Sorry, dad. I didn't mean."
because he's gonna find the
I
key.
swear to God, I was just like, and I think I believed in God when I was a kid, like way more than now. Like I, always had this sense of this giantness of the universe and a sense of my own mortality from the beginning.
Right.
But um, what you said, Kurt, about encouraging imagination, I think that people don't realize that their attention is being robbed. They're giving it away of their own free will
Absolutely.
because they're not deciding, they're not being intentional about what they want to think about or do or watch
Mhm.
or participate in.
Well, don't you think that's because the world has become so there's just too many options. There's just too many things to distract you, to take you out of to find your silent voice, to even listen to hear it is, takes a whole new practice. You know what I mean? You have to concentrate now on slowing down and listening to what, because you can't find it. You can't hear it. There's too much noise.
You can't even break up with somebody and just be like, I need you to think about what you've done. I'm going to think about what I've done. Let's, and let everybody just, not have this electric avenue of oh, I'm just going to fucking look for somebody else right now.
Yeah.
I'm not going to give another thought to that. The cutting baitness of our society and the extremism is it's really bad.
Well, let me segue that. Because I know you have 3 kids. 3 kids.
Yeah. Well,
I
4 if you include my mom.
Okay, and your mom. So what is it that, because we have 3 kids and we have conversation about exactly what you're talking about the expendability of things, how people are so quick to cut bait and run. Commitment is just a very difficult place to stay. All the things that we were taught as kids, for our parents, for all their flaws, at least they knew how to carry through. They knew how to follow through. So what is it that you partake with them as much as you can? Because we know at a certain point, you lose you lose voice with them, right? But there's lots of questions about it. But what do you feel is good that you've instilled in them in terms of that kind of stuff? Because I know your children, well, I don't know enough about your children. So you're going to tell me. What have you as a parent do you feel have instilled some of that in them? Because that is who you are.
There's a lot.
There's a lot of
There's a lot that I see that, that's my kid. That's my kid. They are kind. There's nobody is too small. The person in the room that people remember as being the one who said, "Hey, let me help you. Let me, take care of you." They're empathetic. They're cool. They're so cool. They're and my youngest daughter is she's like Robert Plant. I don't even he's unbelievable. They all have their attributes that are incredible, but there's this feeling of, we're talking about expendability. The other word is erasure. So being a parent, and you and I have talked about this recently, Katey, just that kind of that feeling of just that, we're not done yet. We're still we're still working and
Right.
living and creating and it's just I don't know. You want your kids to surpass you, but when you're dead, right? Do they have to do it now?
So if I may say, because we to the previous conversation, we've been look, our kids, 2 of our kids are very much enamored and plugged in and pursuing the business. The youngest one is a science nerd and has no desire whatsoever. But we've been very pragmatic with the older ones. They see that it's a job. They see both of us when we're in between gigs thinking we'll never fucking work again.
Yeah.
They've had the reality. There's very little glamour attached to what it is they do because they've seen it as, a working man.
Made it a point.
Yeah.
I remember when they were little and letting them know when I didn't get the job, really letting them know so that they didn't. I think they still have some kind of, I want to use the word entitlement, but it's not entitlement, where they see their parents professionally succeeding at the thing they're trying to do. So they do kind of think oh, well, this will happen for me. This will happen for, which is kind of a double-edged sword. It's good that they feel that way, that there's a possibility, but it's also,
I think they have a
They have a pretty realistic view of it, though, for sure. They do. As I'm sure
My youngest is the one who's the civilian.
she's a civilian. So, the Robert Clant one. So, what is her interest?
She has a real job and she works 40 hours a week, and she is so proud of it. Just moved out,
Wow, empty nest.
except for the 89-year-old. But she works 40 hours a week, makes commission, gets full medical, dental, vision. That makes her feel good.
Well,
She's like the only one of her friends who has that. And she is literally building and making racks and putting it away, and lives in a rent controlled apartment. And she's got her head on straight. She really does. But she had her struggles. They all did. And like my two oldest are both actors, and they're both fucking killing it. Jackson knows them.
yes, yes, absolutely. No,
All those people, and Sarah too. They all know each other.
yes.
But it's kind of extraordinary to because my oldest daughter said something today to somebody. She goes, "We're a condiment family. Like before we even fill the fridge, we're buying the mustard, the paprika, the Aleppo pepper, the Maldon salt flake, condiments."
Condiments.
And I was like, I love that she said that about her family. Like, when you have a family and your kids, they drove each other crazy when they were kids, and they're constantly coming together.
Yeah,
And
love it.
that's like, it's the greatest thing.
What's the age gap? What's the
Yeah,
They're all less than 3 apart.
wow?
Less than 3.
No, we have the same with Sarah and Jackson. They're like, I mean, we might as well not be in the room when they're there, because there's a whole secret language or secret thing. They're just so tight, and it's beautiful to see. Now, our youngest, who's about 12 years younger than Sarah, she's just now getting to the age where they're like, okay, you can come enjoy it too. But yeah, it is lovely to see.
I remember when she was in your arms when we read Denise Gruska's book, The Only Boy in Ballet Class.
And I brought Esme with me.
You brought her.
That's right. Well, you know how great that kid is doing, right?
Saying, like, I read the book out to everybody, or did you? Like, we did
something.
Yeah, and Esme was in your arms.
Right. You know that kid. Have you talked to Jay that he's in the New York City Ballet now?
Oh, Eli. He's
Eli's
unbelievable.
I mean, amazing. Yes, it's amazing.
All the Gruskas are the greatest. It's like the dynasty of that Gruska family is strong.
So strong.
Incredible.
For those who don't know, this is our friend Jay Gruska, who is a pretty well-known music supervisor, amazing songwriter. He sent me a tape, Pammy, of when I did the show with Paul last summer. He sent a tape of a song. Oh, it was, do you remember, I don't know if you remember this, when I had cancer in my 20s, after we did Backstreet, and I had a thyroid cancer and I lost my voice, and they got it all. It was that I was 27 years old. They got it all, but I lost my voice and I had to do vocal therapy for a long time. And Jay and Paul wrote me a song that when I finally was able to sing again, and it ended up being, it's called Friends and Lovers. It became a huge hit for somebody because after they wrote the lyric for me, they wrote a different lyric and it became a big hit song. But Jay sent me a tape of him singing it. And it was, I don't know if you remember Jay's voice, but it was so amazing.
Beautiful.
So beautiful. Those guys, I mean, and I love how Jay, stays in touch. He's just such a menschy dude. He's so great.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is all inside info. Nobody knows what we're talking about. We don't care. Yeah.
Jay was in Three Dog Night.
Who was?
Jay.
Oh, that's right, for about 5 minutes. Yes, he was. I think he didn't like it at all. Pretty sure he didn't like it.
Amazing.
Let's continue. Let's talk about
Okay.
some stuff. Are you in a relationship right now or no? Or where are you at? No. Is that a good thing?
There's nothing. I'm a woman in her 50s and I live in LA. Do I need to say anything else?
Yeah, but you're you. So I don't it's your small change, man.
Hey, small change. Hey, kid strange. No, there's nobody.
Okay. All right.
No applicants needed. No, I mean, like, I don't know. It's been a minute. It's been many years. Years.
Well, maybe not open to that, which is interesting. I mean, you know what? That is such a cool, that's so like, okay, because I've just been doing a lot of reading about people choosing that lifestyle rather than, when we're coming up, people thinking there's something wrong with that lifestyle. There is nothing wrong.
Yeah,
with
I put it in my show. Like it's a big part of like the series finale of Better Things. Just like this renegade maverick decision for a woman to be very happy to be on her own.
it. Right.
Because I realized like when I was promoting like season 3, people were like, "Are you ever going to get together with Mel Trueblood?" Which is the part that Lenny played on my show. Is Sam and Robin, are they going to get back together when Henry Thomas was on my show? And I was like, they are fascinated. They need her to be in a relationship desperately. So I don't know. I mean,
Well, good on you for not.
I said to my kids last night, we went to Cantor's, Katey! Wait, what the fuck?
Of course you went.
You did?
Wait. Why? Why today? This is also crazy. I did the show at the Groundlings.
Right.
And 2 of my daughters, one of her boyfriend and friend, and my mother. And I was like, let's go to Cantor's after the show. I sat at that table and I said, we would come here every Monday night after we would see Chucky, Weiss, and the Goddamn Liars.
Oh my God. Oh my God. Yes, that's right.
At Central, which is now the Viper Room.
Right.
And we would be in fucking Cantor's at 3 a.m.
Always. Yeah. And Spider and I would go, and this is what I will say. Chucky was a huge mentor for Spider and I because of he lived a recovered life. I mean, he was on that nightlife scene, but he was full on in recovery at that point.
He
And
always was.
living it out.
I met him. He was sober.
Yeah, he was sober and living it up. And oh my God, Cantor's, Jesus. Oh my God.
And it's still exactly the same,
Exactly,
which is like a balm for your soul. Like you're in there and you're like, okay, I could close my eyes and it's 35 years ago.
Wow.
But I
Same
told
waitresses.
kids, what'd you say?
Same waitresses.
Oh, but I told the kids, I said, we were here when the Kibitz Room opened
That's
and the Wallflowers played all the time.
wow. Right. That's right. Wow, Pammy. I'm telling you, I don't talk to many hometown girls. I mean, you are really hometown girls, as I am.
Right.
And so there's few of us.
I said, but the thing that I said to my kids last night, and I was like, oh God, I don't want this to come back on me. But Rocket is my youngest, and Gideon was with us. And Rocky said something like, oh, she saw me doing the play with Tate Donovan. And she goes, every time I see you do a thing with like a middle-aged guy, I'm like, I want a new daddy. Like, Mom. And she said, would you ever? And I'm like, maybe I'm a little bit open.
Oh, very
And
nice.
Gideon freaked out. She was like, Mom, you're open? You're open? So maybe a little bit, but
I
that means, I love all iterations and I love people getting married and having relationships, but I've never felt I'm too traumatized.
Well, if that's the story that this just my 2 cents, that you live in, then that is the story. But if the story becomes, I've gone beyond that, then that door does open. I don't think we are victimized by our trauma. Trauma is like the word now. We're all into our trauma. But, I don't know. I just know for me personally, I've just been trying to not listen to the narrative that has held me back in certain areas of my life because I'm thinking I'm still there. It's like I was talking to Kurt the other day, and, for years, and I'll say this to everybody, I had problems with my weight. I have issues around food and my weight. And I was reflecting on it the other day because I don't have those issues. And I just thought about, wow, how much of my life have I put on hold and sort of worried about and lived in this trauma that I had when I was in high school. I mean, I was a fat kid in high school, but since then, not really. You know what I mean?
Crazy because I just always saw you as a goddess, but I remember one time being at your house off Barham,
Right?
and everybody was doing a spit diet.
A spit diet? Oh, we were all eating and spitting it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a fun house to clean.
Oh my God. I don't even remember that, but yeah, there was probably that and lots of substances that could help you not eat.
Yeah.
So
Spit diet off Barham with Katey Sagal and the Harlot.
unbelievable, unreal. But the point of why I'm saying that is because that trauma of being a high school fatty had followed me for so many years and really kind of limited a lot of things I would do. And I just am now have been reflecting on the fact that I don't tell that story anymore. I don't have that story anymore. So it just shows me the power of what we hang on to and how limiting it can be. So I'm glad to hear. I mean, I hear you saying you have some trauma, but I'm glad the door might be.
Yeah.
I'm with Gideon. I might be opening just a little bit.
Well,
If you're a lovey girl, Pammy, you are big hearted. You are a big heart.
and to you,
I mean, if that means that I have to smell balls again, I don't know.
but to your point of I'm not done yet, right? Doesn't that apply to
Yeah,
everything?
exactly.
And look, it's rhetoric, but it really is true. If we don't change, we don't grow, right? So, even that much.
Oh, that's so true. Because what you were talking about, and when you go to speak to people, and you're like, "Okay, you're going to write a book."
Yeah.
Well, you got a phone, you got a car, you got a thing. Let's go.
You have a vagina, you have a phone. Come on.
Let's go.
They're both sheaths. Both are sheaths. Listen, everything's still working. Comfortable for parties, and I mean, I would be open to an uncommon arrangement. Like, I just can't do the traditional thing. Like, I
Very-
raised the thing of raising 3 girls,
Right.
and then when I was in that relationship, which was it was just really hard. It really was a lot. But I don't know. I mean, Rocky was like, "What kind of guy?" And I go, "Probably younger."
Oh yeah.
Because
That-
I don't know about, but I don't know if Colonel Sanders is willing to go to Ireland with me.
No, I see young guy. I see young guy, Pammy, because I don't know. That's just the difference between men and women at our age or your age. I'm much older than you, but your age are so much younger than the guys I meet at your age.
Mm.
In
Yeah.
spirit.
Oh, full on. I'm friends now, and I'm sure you know her. You know Jane Fonda?
I don't know her, but yes, I know who she is.
She's fucking unbelievable. Her vitality, she's 86. She is so fucking sexy. She can rattle off the amount of things she's broken, the amount of times she's had the thing that you had in your throat all over her body, like, survival. And she's just like, I mean, it's intoxicating for me to be around women. I'm obsessed with women. They're so incredible to me and endlessly interesting. But the hard part is I'm strictly dickly. So
I hear you. I totally relate. There were so many things
yeah,
I wish it was different, but no, I'm
I
strictly
would marry Jane Fonda tomorrow.
here. Now, isn't it true though that Jane Fonda also surrounds herself with younger people? I mean, isn't that's what I've heard is that she's just, which I ascribe. I have lots of friends that are young, so
I think so, but she's 86, so like who's she gonna fucking hang out with?
right. She's got to hang out with the younger people.
And and like we all feed off each other.
I love that.
So
Yeah.
this is like this is the great thing, like, and the fact that you and I still have each other in our lives, it's like, oh, I'm gonna cry. It's massive. It's massive. I mean, it's crazy. And also I'm just remembering that I just did an episode of a show that Liz's husband is the makeup artist.
Oh,
Bruce.
Bruce. Yes. I don't know what show it was, but that is what he does.
Mid-Century Modern.
What's it called?
Mid-Century Modern.
I don't know. I'm not watching.
It's like a new multicam for Hulu, and I'm playing Linda Lavin's daughter and Nathan Lane's sister.
Oh, I love Linda Lavin. I just met her at Bruce's. Is she the best? I met her at Liz and Bruce's last year. Christmas something. And I was just so enamored with her and her very young, hot boyfriend. I mean, it was great. She's amazing.
25 years. I was like, the day I met her, I was like, give it to me. Okay, what's going on? Okay. He's like, her third marriage. Oh, he's younger, right? And she goes, oh, yeah. I go, I know, I see those legs. I see those fucking legs, Miss Linda Lavin.
Oh, man. She's a rock star. I loved meeting her. I guess she's her personal friends, but she was Christmas Eve. And maybe last year. I think it was last year. It was so awesome.
Wow.
Well, should we eat some pie and find
Well, ask her the one question that I love so much.
I'm sort of fascinated by people's personal lore, if you will, or the book that we create, whether intentional or not, that is out there, that people have an expectation of who you might be, how you might behave, what you might do, and who you are when you enter a room or when they meet you for the first time. And is that your experience? Does that book exist? And I ask this of myself quite often, how much of that am I encouraging? And, how much of that persona, if you will, am I holding on to? And what do I do to either counter that or embrace it or whatever it might be?
It's kind of like, who do people think you are when you're coming into a room? Do people have like an idea of who you're going to be? And are you that person, or are they surprised?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, oh, she's not that person.
I experienced a lot of that last night because I was at the theater, and people can sometimes. So my answer is, it depends on the room and the people. So it's the receptors. So I gauge myself. I read the room literally, and it's funny because like I'm sure is having their Christmas party tonight, and I'm going through this day going, yeah, I'm gonna go, and I know it's gonna come time, and I'm gonna lose my nerve to walk into a party because I get social anxiety.
Right.
And what's the purpose? Why am I in the room? If I'm in the room to mentor young filmmakers, then I'll just take control. If I'm in the room to offer my support or whatever, I'll do that. If I'm in the room to celebrate somebody's life who passed, then I don't know. I think I measure, the way people are, but I used to be felled by a side eye. It would destroy me. If I felt like somebody was like the thing they said you're doing drugs,
Right.
or, somebody talking smack about you, or
Being
whatever.
misunderstood.
Yeah. And it's like, that matters so much less to me now.
Yeah.
Like, I have this quote that is a John Wayne quote: talk low, talk slow, and don't say too much. And I have
Ooh.
it on a painting in my bathroom, because I remember him saying that in a fucking, Great Western Bank commercial when I was growing up.
Yeah.
And I was like, do that, do that. And I'm never able to do that. And I can't help people's perception of me,
Right.
It's like, the other night I was with my friend Stephen Root, and we actually went to, Eric Gilliland passed away, the writer. He was only 60, and there was this beautiful celebration at the Writers Guild Theater. And the whole thing was like, oh my God, my dad was 60 when he died. The Writers Guild was a huge part of his life. I grew up in that theater practically. So it was like very intense. And Stephen Root, is like a dad to my daughters. Like, he was always there. He was the first person I told I was pregnant when we recorded King of the Hill. And we're standing there talking, and he's talking to this guy, Ron Underwood, an actor who played one of my kids' dad in this movie. And Root said, she's very loud, but she's also shy, and people don't know that. And I was so struck by, like, him knowing me.
Oh, yes. But honey, those of us that know you really know that. I really do know that. And I think that's part of the question, is like, how often does our social anxiety make us walk into a room and be somebody that has worked before? Do you know what I mean? Like, we've gotten through to people by our humor or being outrageous or saying and as opposed to who we actually really are, which I know you to be a little bit loud, but extremely shy and very sensitive, super, heartfelt.
Well, that's why I had the camera for all those years.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I had my shield,
Right.
and I was of service.
Right.
I was documenting it all, and I had my shield. And then I realized I was not really living, a very engaged life, because if I didn't have a camera, I would be like, I can't look. The lady's having a baby right in front of me, and I don't have a camera.
Right. Right.
So then I stopped doing that for a while. But I do have good shit on you at the launch.
I love you. Think we have to do our last segment.
Which is we
We eat pie, and we ask our guests what their favorite pie is and to tell us why it is their favorite pie. Oh, nice. What is your favorite? What did you pick?
So Mira, who works with me, Mira Pir Muhammad, who I adore, she said they want to know what kind of pie, because in the last segment they eat pie. And I said, I have no relationship with pie except humble.
Okay.
And then I said, I remember I had a slice of key lime pie one time that was delicious. And I'm not a pie person, I
How about
guess.
I think what it does is we've had some really interesting people, like Rainn Wilson told us this whole story about this weird kind of pie that he liked and brought up a childhood and blah, 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 blah. So that's kind of where we thought, okay.
There was a person one time who was very overbearing and very toxic. And she was it was like anybody who was in her orbit would start fighting with somebody around them. And she was kind of just like, had this crazy, kinetically toxic energy. And I was with somebody who had baked a pie in a pie dish that was at her house. I'm trying to talk code. And it was like a Pyrex pie dish that you could get at Target for like $12 or 15. A fakakta like nothing. And so we were like, can we leave can we borrow this dish? We're going to take it to our friends in Harlem. Like, we were on the East Coast. And she was like, no. And I was like, what? And she was like, she didn't want me to take her pie dish, to borrow it. And I took a deep breath and I went to her and I said, if you asked me to borrow my rig, of course I had a camera. If you
Right.
wanted to borrow my video camera, I would give it to you. If you broke it, I wouldn't even say anything. I would just replace it. What is the significance of this? I don't know. Does it even matter? Does it even matter? And she starts cleaning the counters and she's going like totally batshit crazy, and had to take this homemade apple pie out of the pie dish.
Oh my God.
Now, what happens to a pie when you have to take a whole pie out?
Oh my God.
It doesn't survive.
No.
You got to take it out by slices. You can't take a whole pie out of a dish and put it in a new dish. It doesn't transfer.
And she made you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, that says a lot.
But it's a very interesting metaphor, isn't it? You can't take a whole pie out of the dish. You got to take it by slice.
Well, that's a very good metaphor. That's what I tell people all the time, that first of all, you have to have a full pie, right? Of your life, and your life is in slices. Yeah. You can't take the whole thing with you all the time.
That worked.
Yeah. That was good. So that was an apple pie, but key lime pie is just something that you sort of had one time and you like.
I tasted it once and I thought it was good. And so thank you, Katey C.
Katey C is the best.
This is also the part of our show where if you would like to promote anything or tell us what's current in your life, in terms of, anything that you're involved with that you would like people to know about.
It's the time to eat pie and hype.
Yeah, eat pie and hype. Exactly.
Okay. Well, like I said, I'm doing a lot of the mentoring. I just did Tribeca through her lens. 5 female filmmaking teams who made pitch decks and presented and we read their scripts, and whenever I do that, I do a mini room with Mira, who's my writing assistant, and it's just the amount you get back is huge. I do this thing called job fair where I try to tell people what jobs there are in the industry that they would not think about for a second, because everybody wants to be a football player or a star, a director, a doctor, but those in-between jobs, which, I don't even know, but it's all mostly old white dudes who are in post. And those jobs are fucking awesome. And, and just if you have a job and you have space next to you while you're doing your job one day, bring somebody along and show them what you do. That's what I would encourage people to do. Share and mentor. There's no reason to be selfish. You're working anyway. They're not taking away from you. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, don't be toxic, especially women. You need to behave because women need to uplift other women. I'm adapting a movie for Fox Searchlight, which I directed a movie this summer. And then I have another show. I'm dying to get another show on FX. It's so hard.
Isn't John the best, Landgraf?
He's the best.
He's the only one that does that out there.
Yeah.
He's the best, and he's my champion. And, I've had a relationship with FX for almost 2 decades. And it's been really incredible. I just want to get another go on the air over there really badly. So I'm doing the Searchlight film, and I'm trying to get my film financed. And I guess the thing that I would say is it's always like back to square one. And
Always.
you guys touched on that too. And it's like I've got the pedigree of 5 seasons of Better Things. And then I've got Babes, the movie I directed, and it did well, and we made it for like nothing. But still, I have to jump through hoops and do a whole show and song and dance, and I feel like I know the way things need to get done, and people do things in another way,
Oh.
like in a by the book way, and it's not my rhythm.
Well,
Man.
my latest quote is that I'm an analog cowboy on an algorithmic trail.
I'm with you. I'm riding side saddle, baby.
It's so true. And, Landgraf is the only one that seems to that understands that analog journey.
He understands.
He understands it.
Vision. He understands.
It's totally true. Oh my God, that's so good. That's better. That's even better or just as good as I'm a lonesome LA cowboy hanging out, hanging on. Do you remember that one?
Say it.
I've been smoking dope, snorting coke, trying to write a song. You don't remember?
No.
New Riders of the Purple Sage, baby.
Now, was the character Small Change, was that influenced by Waits or was that pre-Waits?
Oh, by Top Waits?
Small Change got rained on late last night. That-
Oh, maybe. Probably.
Who knows? I don't know if Paul Gordon was a Tom Waits guy.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe
Not if he had silver underwear on.
We were Tom Waits guys, though. Oh my.
I don't know if Paul was really, I don't know if he was.
Yeah.
Some songwriters do not get experience with other songwriters.
You know what Paul did is that, I was hanging out with him one day and he had all these songbooks. And I was about 18 and I just was like, you know what? I took fucking piano lessons my whole childhood and I can't play one fucking song except this one racist song that my teacher taught me when I was like 9. And I realized in retrospect it was
right.
hella racist.
I have a few of those in my history. Yeah.
Oh, unbelievable. And I just sat there and I said, can you teach me how to play? Can you just teach me how to play one song? Like, how could I do it? And he was like, sure, pick a book. So I pulled the Elvis Costello songbook.
Right.
And he taught me open chords and inversions. And Allison was the first song I learned how to play on the piano.
Good song. Good one.
That cool.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, honey, I think
we do it good.
We've just so understood. You're
I
so.
want to hang out with you, Panny.
Yeah, let's do it.
I know. We should definitely do it.